Today I'm going to show you guys how to make some dope hi-hat patterns inside of FL Studio. You will be on your way in just a few steps. We're going to hop right into it today. When you first open up FL Studio, you're going to be brought to your main playlist and you're going to want to load up a hi-hat sample. So if you don't already have a drum kit downloaded, you can just go over to the browser and choose one of FL Studio's stock plugins. I'm going to go ahead and load up a hi-hat from a drum kit that I have from Cody of Internet Money. Once you've loaded up your hi-hat, you're going to want to turn on your metronome so that you can hear the tempo of your beat as you're making your pattern. And a little tip I like to use when making hi-hat patterns is I first like to lay out a snare or a clap, and that way I can kind of build my hi-hat pattern into the clap and it gives it a little bit more of a bounce. So I'm going to go ahead and lay those down real quick. You don't have to lay out a clap pattern. I just like to do it because it gives me something to work off of. I don't really like working off of a blank canvas. It's a little bit harder to kind of envision what it could be. So a little trick, if you don't already know, to get a hi-hat pattern started is you just hover over your hi-hat and you hit Control click and you go over here to the right side and there's going to be these options here to fill either 2, 4, or 8 steps. I always just go fill 2 steps and that fills every other step in with a hi-hat and it already builds in a bounce for you. So now that you have your 2 steps all filled in, you can go in and start building some rolls and take out certain notes to create suspense and drops. So I just like to add a triplet in kind of before or after the clap, and that gives the beat a little bit like of a pick-me-up every now and then so that it's not just so static throughout. So to hear what that sounds like. Now if you want to take out a note or two, this will give it some more suspense and it will kind of create more space for the artist to lay down the vocals. Now, if you want to give your hi-hat patterns a little bit more of a bounce, I always recommend adding in some open hats too on top of the hi-hats, and that way, you're going to have a crazier hit every time the 808 comes in. So just drag in an open hat. Now when you put in your kick or your 808, it's going to hit a little bit harder every time those open hats come in. So let's go ahead and add in just a basic kick pattern. Now that you have your hi-hat pattern laid out, it's a lot easier to lay out your kick drum or your 808. It's easy to have those hi-hats kind of coming through the mix too much, and it's not good on the end listener. So you want to make sure you have those down enough to where they're just kind of like an undertone and they keep the beat moving along, but they're not really like hurting the listener's ear. So that'll do it for today's video. Building hi-hat patterns is super fun, super simple, and is a great way to give your beats a lot more bounce. Don't forget to add different layers to it to fill out the sounds a little bit more. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out via the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you for more FL Studio tutorials every single weekday.